Santiago Giménez has become one of the best strikers in the world in this upcoming football generation, while also being the next face of the Mexican national team. However, how did Giménez even reach this point where he's become a superstar talent that potentially has a value of 100 million euros? Well, let's take a look at the rise of Santiago Giménez. Santi was born on April 18th, 2001 in Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. Yeah, Santi wasn't born in Mexico. You see, Santiago's father, Christian Giménez, was also a professional footballer born and raised in Argentina, and even played for clubs like Independiente and Boca Juniors. However, towards the later stages of Christian's career, he had a transfer to Tiburones Rojos de Veracruz over in Mexico. Therefore, with this transfer, Christian took his son, Santiago Giménez, along to Mexico with him when he was just 3 years old, and ever since then, Santi was being raised in Mexico. Now, as previously noted, football was in Santi's blood, and he was always seen as one of the most talented players in his youth. So much so, with football being in his DNA, Santi joined the Cruz Azul Academy in 2014, another club that his father played over 200 games for. Santi was excelling in the academy, and this led him to get fast-tracked to the senior team when he was just 16 years old. And in August 2017, he made his professional debut with Cruz Azul in a Copa MX match against Tigres. However, his Liga MX debut would take a while to come. In fact, it'll be slightly over 2 years before Santi made his return to the Cruz Azul senior team, with him making his Liga MX debut against Tijuana in August 2019. Now, Santi would have a decent debut season, because overall in the 1920 campaign, he got himself 2 goals in 9 appearances, showing glimpses of his talent. This would then lead him to gain more trust from the coach of Cruz Azul, because in the 2021 season, Santi got himself 6 goals and 8 assists in 44 games, a huge upgrade from the season prior. And then in the 21-22 season, Santi would impress even more, getting a total of 9 goals and 2 assists in 43 games, improving his goal tally by 3 from the season prior. However, the 21-22 campaign would be more special compared to his previous seasons in Mexico. This is because he finally started to get on the radar of the Mexican national team, and in October 2021, Mexico's national team coach, Gerardo Martino, gave Santi his senior debut for Mexico in a friendly game against Ecuador, and a couple months later, Santi ended up scoring his first goal for Mexico in a friendly game against Chile. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why did Santi choose to represent Mexico over Argentina? Was he not good enough for Argentina? Well, here's the thing. Although Santiago Giménez was born in Argentina and lived there until 3 years old, and ethnically he is Argentine, he was raised in Mexico for the majority of his life. Yes, there's a picture of Santi wearing the Argentina jersey next to Messi, one of his idols obviously, and it seemed like initially Santi was a big Argentina fan, but in an interview after becoming a naturalized Mexican citizen, he said he felt more Mexican than Argentine since he lived around the Mexican people and culture way longer, hence why he chose to represent Mexico. Also, at the time while he was with Cruz Azul, there was no way he was on Argentina's radar. Respectfully, they had better options. Moving on to the 22-23 campaign though, Santi would have a season he will never forget. That's because in the first 5 games in Liga MX for Cruz Azul, he bagged 5 goals. This would only go on and increase the European club's interest in him. Thing is though, a lot of Mexican players in Liga MX don't want to leave their comfort zone and stay in Mexico's top division, earning the most money possible and never really going out to test themselves. Santi was different however, and he wanted to show that the Mexican players can ball out on an elite level, something that hasn't happened in very recent times, with Mexico having their worst run of form ever. So with many top clubs being interested in him, Santi decided to follow in the footsteps of other Mexican players like Eric Gutierrez, Edson Alvarez, and Herving Lozano, and go to the Eredivisie, where he would join Feyenoord for 6 million euros, a very good Dutch club that has a good reputation of trusting young players. But before we get to Santi's time with Feyenoord, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall, just to get to know me more. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Now, Santi was signed to be one of the future stars of Feyenoord, not initially the main man up top that would lead the Lions in the Eredivisie. And this was very true towards the beginning of the season, with him largely making substitute appearances in the first 20 games overall. However, Santi was still performing well, with him bagging 2 goals and 2 assists during his time in the Eredivisie, and a total of 4 goals in the Europa League group stages, despite only making 1 start. And also, these 4 goals helped Feyenoord top the Europa League group. So as we can see, Santi was performing when he was given the chance, and he just needed to stay patient with the manager, Arne Slot, and get used to his tactics, since they were very different from Cruz Azul over in Mexico. Now, here's the thing though. Despite Santiago Giménez being bold enough to move to Europe and performing pretty okay so far, he wasn't selected for the World Cup. That's right, manager Gerardo Martino came out and said Santi wasn't given that much game time over in Europe, and that cost him his spot for the World Cup. Instead, Mexico's coach wanted to go for more experience, so he selected strikers Raul Jimenez, which is fine, but then he selected Henry Martin and Funes Mori over Santi. Bro, what? Mexico would then only manage to score their only 2 goals of the tournament against Saudi Arabia and get knocked out in the group stages. What a stupid decision from the Mexico manager, not gonna lie. Regardless, Santi felt like he had a chip on his shoulder after being dropped from the World Cup squad, and for the remainder of the season, he went on a crazy run of form. He managed to score 13 goals in the Eredivisie after the World Cup, including scoring in 8 straight games towards the end of the season. This would then lead Santi to finish off the season with 28 goals and 3 assists in 150 games, including both his time in Liga MX and European football. The data behind his performances was really positive too, with him increasing his average touches in the box per 90 from 4.3 with Cruz Azul to 8.3 per 90 with Feyenoord. Additionally, his shots per 90 minutes rose from under 3 in Liga MX to over 4 in the Dutch league. Last but not least, with his great goal scoring form in the Eredivisie, Feyenoord ended up winning the league title by 7 points, their first time since 2017, and a huge reason for this was because of Santiago Giménez. Now, these great performances would lead Santi to get recalled into the Mexican national team for the Nations League, in which USA absolutely dumped Mexico 3-0, but more importantly for Santi, the Gold Cup. Now, the Gold Cup was a perfect place to put Mexico back on the map, considering that every team besides USA and Mexico were significantly weaker, and USA even brought a weak squad to the tournament, giving their main players a rest instead. So, Mexico had all the pressure to win this tournament, and had to rectify their failure of last time with them losing to USA's B team in the previous Gold Cup final 1-0, and Santi was going to help them strike their revenge. In the group stages, Santi managed to score 1 goal against Haiti, but besides that, it was rather quiet for the Mexican striker. But then in the Gold Cup final, they had to play Panama, since Panama beat the United States B team in the semis on penalties, and it was a stalemate for a large portion of the match, and Santi came on with 6 minutes left to play. But that's all he needed, because in the 88th minute, thanks to a terrific solo effort, Santi Giménez scored the winning goal, giving Mexico the Gold Cup they desperately needed to calm the tension around the national team. There is no better way for Santi to become one of the faces of the Mexican national team than to score a last-minute goal. What an effort from Santi. Now, with this great season for Feyenoord and the Mexican national team, Santi was seeing a lot of interest from other European clubs. However, Santi decided to sign a 1-year extension with Feyenoord since he knew he needed to stay longer with the Dutch club to develop himself. Also, he would finally be able to play Champions League football, a dream of his since a kid, making him want to stay at Feyenoord for another year. And this decision so far definitely turned out to be the right one. Santi ended up scoring his first goal of the season against Sparta Rotterdam, and then in the following games, he scored a brace in a 6-1 win over Almere City, and another one in a 5-0 win away from home against Utrecht. Then in late September, against arch rivals Ajax, Giménez completed a hat-trick in a 4-0 away win, and this would lead him to win the Eredivisie Player of the Month for September. He then would go on to score another hat-trick in November in a 4-2 win over Excelsior, and then against Volendam in early December, he scored his 31st Eredivisie goal in a calendar year, surpassing the previous record holder, Luis Suarez, who scored 30 goals in a calendar year in 2009. That's not it though, because in the Champions League, Santi Giménez made his debut against Lazio in late October, and scored a brace in a 3-1 home win over Lazio, showing that even on Europe's highest level of competition, Santi can perform. Overall, in the 23-24 campaign so far, Santi has 20 goals and 3 assists in 19 games, and it doesn't seem like he's gonna stop scoring anytime soon. Now, he's been getting linked from many top clubs in Europe's best leagues, like Chelsea for example, and even Real Madrid, where he actually said he would be delighted to play for a big club like Madrid. Now, at the young age of 22 years old, Santiago Giménez is already showing great signs for a striker that can have a wonderful career. Barring any injuries, Santi could be one of the future best strikers in the world, and the one to lead Mexico back to where they should be, not total flops on the international level. Anyways, Santi is a player that everybody in football should be aware of, because in a few years, when he chooses to play at one of Europe's top clubs, I'm sure he'll become one of the most notable names in the sport for the upcoming football generation. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Also, please be sure to follow my Twitter and Instagram, the links are in my YouTube description. Last but not least, if you want to learn why the 2022 World Cup was the best one ever, you definitely want to check out this video right here, you won't regret it.